Now we're going to talk about note values and rhythm. Just as clock time is divided into various units of measure, the smallest which is the second, so is musical time divided into various units of measure, the smallest which is the beat. And just as seconds are grouped together to form minutes, so are beats grouped together to form what is called the meter. The most common groupings are 2, 3, and 4 beats, which are put together into measures or bars. And the most common time signature would have 4 beats in each measure. If I play one note per beat, I'm playing what are known as quarter notes. And they sound something like this. I'll play the note E on the 2nd fret of the D string. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's as easy as that. I play once per beat. Those are quarter notes. That was one measure. If I played 2 measures, it would sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I play one note that lasts for 2 beats, these are known as half notes. Half notes sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I do that for 2 measures, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I sustain one note for 4 beats or an entire measure, these are known as whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I'm going to try and apply this over the backing track in the key of G major, and I'm going to play quarter notes and half notes, and I'll end with a whole note. So check it out, and then we'll come back and learn it. All right, so let's break this down. This is in the key of G major. I'm starting off with half notes. The first note is B, 4th fret of the G string. So I sustain that for 2 beats. Then I'm going to play the note A on the 2nd fret of the G string for 2 beats. So the first measure sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to move back to the note B for 2 beats, followed by the note G on the 5th fret of the D string for 2 beats. That takes us through the first 2 measures. In the 3rd measure, I'll play B on the 4th fret of the G string for 2 beats, and D on the 7th fret of the G string for 2 beats. Here's what we've done so far. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to play some quarter notes. Starting off with the 5th fret of the D string, I'll play G, A on the 7th fret. On the 4th fret of the G string, I'm going to play the note B, followed by the 5th fret of the G string, I'll play the note C. So I have one measure of quarter notes. Then I'm going to repeat the first 2 measures, where I play B, A, B, G. And in the final 2 measures, I'm going to mix up half notes and quarter notes. Starting with the 9th fret of the G string on the note E. I'm going to sustain that for 2 beats before playing on the 11th fret of the G string. That note is F sharp. Play that for a quarter note. Strike it again, bend up a half step, then come back down and strike the note without the bend. And we end by moving up to the 14th fret of the G string. That's an A note. I'm going to bend up a whole step and then release the bend and strike the 14th fret without the bend. The last note is G. That's our root note, 12th fret of the G string, and I'll hold that for 4 beats. So let's try putting all of that together now. 1, 2, 3, 4. If we divide a quarter note in half, we get what are known as eighth notes. So 2 eighth notes occur within the space of 1 quarter note, and we count these 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The and being where my foot is in an up position. So it sounds something like this. I'll play that same note E on the 2nd fret of the D string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that was a measure of eighth notes. Once again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If we divide an eighth note in half, we get what are known as 16th notes. We have 4 16th notes in the space of 1 quarter note, or 2 16th notes in the space of 1 eighth note. We count these 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. So let's try that now. 1, 2, 3E and a, 4E and a, 1E and a, 2E and a, 3E and a, 4E and a. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our next example is very similar to the previous example, but here we're going to add some eighth notes and some 16th notes into the mix. So check it out. So here I'm starting off with 16th notes. The first 4 notes are G, A, B, C. 5th fret to the 7th fret on the D string, followed by the 4th fret to the 5th fret on the G string. Next 16th note phrase sounds like this. So here I'm playing 7th fret on the D, 4, 5, 7 on the G. So far I've done this. Now some half notes, 4 to 2 on the G string. Back to the 4th fret of the G string, this is a half note. 5th fret of the D string, this is a quarter note. Now I'm going to play some 16th notes, 5 to 7 on the D string, 4 to 5 on the G string. So here's what we've done so far. We start on beat number 3. 1, 2, now some half notes, 4 on the G, 7 on the G. 16th notes, 7, 5, 4 on the G, 7 on the D. The next beat combines 2 16th notes along with an 8th note. So 5 to 4 on the G string, 16th notes, followed by 7 on the D string. Now 8th notes, 5 to 7 on the D, 4 to 5 on the G. Okay, continuing onwards. Half notes, 4 to 2 on the G string, 4 on the G, 5 on the D. Now we have some eighth notes, 7 on the G string, 9, 11, bend up a half step from the 11th fret, come back down and strike that without the bend. Back to the 9th fret, back to the 7th fret. And I'm going to end with some 16th notes. 11, 12, 14 on the G, 12 on the B, 13, 12 on the B, 14 on the G, 12 on the B, 15, 13, 12 on the B, 14 on the G, 13, 12 on the B, 14 on the G, 12 on the B, and the last note, 12 on the G. So here's the whole exercise. 1, 2, If we have 3 notes per beat, these are known as eighth note triplets, and they sound like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. 2 measures would sound like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. 6 notes per beat are known as 16th note triplets. So here's one measure of 16th note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Two measures would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of my old teachers used this little limerick to remember 16th note triplets. Bottle in front of me, frontal lobotomy. So I still think of that when I'm playing 16th note triplets. Bottle in front of me, frontal lobotomy. So if that helps, feel free to use that as well. If we have 8 notes for every one beat, these are known as 30-second notes. So usually this means we're playing pretty quickly, but depending on the tempo, depending on how fast the quarter notes appear, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're playing at a blistering tempo. But in any case, 30-second notes are 8 notes for every one beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Two measures would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to solo over this backing track one more time. This time the solo is going to be a little bit bluesier. I'm going to use some more bends and some slides, and I'm going to end with a 16th note triplet phrase. So check it out with the backing track, and then we'll come back and learn it. All right, so now let's take a look at that solo. I'm starting off on the D string, sliding from 7 to 9, and then grabbing 7 on the G string. Back to the D string, 9, slide back to 7, pull off to 5, and then play 7 on the A string. Back to the root note G on the 5th fret of the D string. Strike that again, and then slide 7 to 9 on the G string. Now I'm going to do a bend of a whole step from the 10th fret of the B string, grab 8 to 10 on the high E, back to 8 on the B string. Now I'm going to shift positions. I'm going to bend up on the 14th fret of the G string a whole step, and then I'm going to play 12, 13, 15 on the B string. Now I'm going to do a pre-bend of a whole step from the 14th fret of the G string, release the bend, pull off to the 12th fret of the G string, and then play 14 on the D string. Back to the 12th fret of the G string, followed by 14 on the D, 12 on the G. Now slide 14 to 16 on the G string, play 15 on the B, hammer on 15 to 17 on the high E string before going back to G on the 15th fret of the high E string. So here's what we've done so far. 1, 2, Okay, let's move on. Now I'm going to bend a whole step from the 17th fret of the high E string, and then strike that note without the bend. Back to 15, 17, followed by 15 on the B string. So that whole phrase would sound like this. Now a similar phrase, but now I'm going to bend up a whole step from the 15th fret of the high E before playing the 15th fret without the bend. Followed by 14, 15 pull off to 14, back to 12 on the B string. Now I'm going to play 12 on the G string, 14 on the G, strike that again, slide up to 16, back to 14. So that whole phrase. Now 12, 14 on the G, on the B string, 12, 13. Now 12, 13, 15 on the B string. And now here come those 16th note triplets. 12, 14, 15 on the high E string. Shift positions, 14, 15, 17 on the high E string. Before ending 15 on the high E string. That's our root note G. So here's the entire solo. 1, 2, All right, so if we sum up this chapter, you should be able to play and identify note values from a whole note up to 30-second notes. So make sure you jam along with the backing track, try out some of these licks I've showed you, or better yet, come up with your own. So have fun with that.